Today's video is brought to you by Blacksmiths Supply, home of the steel belt grinders. A friend of mine and fellow blacksmith gave me a little disc of 52100. This is a high carbon bearing steel, and I thought I would see what I could make from this. I've been looking into doing more wood carving in the wood shop, so my thought is I would see if there's enough steel in this to make 2, maybe 3 carving gouges if we're lucky. This does have a little bit of a lip on it from where it was parted off of whatever was being made with it, and that needs to be ground off so I don't forge that in and create cold shuts. Then we're going to draw it out and see how much material we actually have to work with. I left this in the forge while things cooled down, took a lunch break. It's been about an hour. Still too hot to touch, but it's well below a black heat, so it should be nice and normalized by now at the very least. This is about 8.5 inches long, 5/8 of an inch square, so it's something like 16 millimeters square and 220 millimeters long, somewhere in there. Exact size doesn't matter, this is just the material that I happen to have. I think if I'm really careful with the forging, I can get 3 tools out of this. The tools don't need to be great big heavy tools. In the past I've made gouges and chisels that are really a little bit too thick and bulky, and compared to high-end commercial carving tools, they're a little bit on the chunky side. So I think if I'm careful and I get these properly thinned out and don't try to make them too heavy, I can make 3 tools. I'm going to cut this into thirds. I'll forge the tang end onto them, and then I'll forge the blade end. I'm going to establish the tang that will go into the handle first. I'm going to do that by butchering using the guillotine tool. This just creates a nice square shoulder that will butt up against the handle and support the tool in the handle so the tang doesn't want to split the handle in use. This is pretty typical for gouges and chisels of all sorts. Go ahead and draw the tang out. I'm going to do this under the power hammer because it's pretty fast and easy. If you don't have a power hammer, you can certainly do these things by hand. I think the 52100 steel is probably a bit of overkill if you're trying to do it by hand. It's going to be a much tougher steel to forge, and using something like W1 or 1095 might be a better choice for hand forging. W1 makes excellent woodworking tools, so it's some pretty good steel, probably more readily available, and you don't have to forge it down out of larger pieces like you do this bearing steel. I'm going to go ahead and put some tenoning dies in the guillotine tool just so I can get this down to an even square right at the bolster. Probably in the long run I'm going to grind this down, and as I get further on with this, I really think these tangs have been left a little bit too heavy. They're plenty long enough, they don't need to be real long, but I think I will probably grind that down and make the tang a little bit smaller so I don't have to drill quite as big a hole in the handle. Leave more mass in the wood that way. But at this point, the tang really is mostly just something that I can hold on to with a pair of tongs when I get to forging the chisel blades. But before I do that, I'm going to use a pair of fullering dies and the guillotine tool and create the other side of that bolster. I want this to kind of taper into the blade. I don't want a sharp transition here. I'm going to use a tapering tool. This is one I actually made for doing hinges. That square shank you see sticking up in the background should go into a holder that I had on a previous power hammer, and that way I can use this without having to hand hold the tool. But it works just fine handheld, and I'll probably cut that shank off because I've never adapted that holder to work on this power hammer. And it works just fine handheld, and that way I can taper in either direction. These are about 6 inches long overall. I left 3 inches for the blade and 3 inches for the tang. Now it's just a matter of drawing out the section for the blade, getting an even thickness on these. It's really easy to leave these too thick, and that does give you more material to grind, but you can fix a lot of problems in grinding if it's thick enough. If you forge them too thin and they're twisted or misshapen, you may have problems. So there's pros and cons to going either direction with it. I end up with about a 5-inch blade at this point. And I'll put my touch mark on here before I shape them because it's awfully hard to do that into a curved gouge. Now here's some place that dies for the fly press would probably be the ideal way to shape this. But every size and profile of gouge would need its own set of dies, and if you're only making one set or just a couple of gouges for yourself, it may not be worth taking the time to make the die. A little bit more problematic with the V-tool. This really doesn't want to sink very evenly in here. And taking the time to make a set of dies for the anvil or fly press wouldn't be a bad idea. There comes a time where you have to admit that things just aren't going as smoothly as you would like them to, and you need to stop and make the tool that you should have made before you started. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm just not having good luck getting a clean V shape in this. Trying to use top and bottom tools and still swing a hammer. This would be a good job if I had an apprentice. But I think the ideal way to do this is to make a die for a guillotine tool. And I've got this tool that uses 1-inch dies, pretty quick and simple to make dies for, except I don't have any 1-inch tool steel. Typically I would use 4140 for this. So I either have to draw down a piece of 1 1/4 4140 or draw down this piece of 1 1/4 round 1045. One of you guys sent me this material, and I haven't used any of it for anything, so this would be a good chance to use some of this 1045. Water hardening steel, pretty easy to work with, and it's got a high enough carbon content for a simple set of V-tools. going to cut the angle into these with an angle grinder. One is an inside V and one is an outside V, roughly 60 degrees, the same as a triangular file. There are different angles in V tools. If you go shop for commercially made V tools, you can find all sorts of different angles for specialized purposes. In general, it probably doesn't matter that much if you're just going to make one. I think 60 degrees is a good starting point. But if you want to go into business making tools like this, you would need dies in a whole lot of different shapes. Now, using the top die to refine the bottom die should make a perfect match on these. I'm stamping these both on the same side so I know which is the front and which is the back, and that way I can always index these the same just in case my lineup isn't quite perfect. This 1045 is water hardening, so I can just go ahead and quench it in water. I'm going to put it in toaster oven for an hour at 450 to give them a good temper. These are being used for forging hot steel, so they don't need to be anything real special. Could probably get away with mild steel if it's a limited use tool, but I had a bunch of this stuff available and I think it'll be a good tool in the long run, and probably will get used for other things. This is way better. Dealing with some of the distortion from trying to do it with other tools, and probably would have gone even smoother if I'd started with a fresh blank. And I may go back and make another tool. I've got some more of this bearing steel, and if these tools don't come out, I will probably go back and do it again. So what you're seeing is just my first go-around, and whether or not they make great tools that I use for years to come is just something that time will tell. Constant straightening. This really wants to twist badly. It's kind of annoying. This V-gouge is still a little bit on the irregular side, but I think we've got it close enough that we're going to be able to grind it and correct anything in the grinding process. And for the grinding, we are going to use the Stihl 2x48 belt grinder. This is something Blacksmiths Supply, our sponsor for today's video, sent us last year, and we looked at it then, but I thought this would be a good opportunity to show it in action again. I actually keep this down in the basement wood shop most of the time because it is really handy for woodwork as well as metalwork, and for sharpening tools like this in use. The Stihl 2x48 belt grinder is a fully functional grinder. It's just a little bit smaller in footprint than a 2x72, and there is a Stihl 2x72 belt grinder if you want the longer belts. But this does not take up as much space on a workbench as the larger grinder. It has a VFD, so it's variable speed, easy to control, plugs into a 120 volt wall outlet, and it comes pretty much ready to use. There are some accessories you can get if you want some more functionality, contact wheels, things like that. But it did come with the VFD, fully wired, and it has this platen assembly that is multifunctional. There's actually 4 different functions built into this, and we're going to look at most of those as we do the grinding on this so we can see what you use some of these different areas for. First thing though, I want to establish flats and thin out the overly thick sections of this and get it profiled and make sure that I've got something I can work with. Now, projects like this often turn into more time spent at the grinder than they are at the forge, and the better a job you do at the forge, the less time you'll have to do it at the grinder. Unfortunately, this V-gouge is not one of those tools that came out close to finished, and I can't get on the inside. I don't have anything on a belt grinder that's going to fit on the inside. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and put a convenience bend in here, and that means I'm going to have to go back to a hand file, but since I made this fit a triangular file, I should be able to do this with a triangular file and get it fairly well cleaned up. Kind of a time-consuming process. There's nothing about this that is fast and efficient. If you were doing this commercially, you would need probably a hard stone that was shaped to fit this. Once I've got that pretty well cleaned up, I've got to straighten it again, and of course it's going to leave some forged scale in what I just filed, so it's going to need to go back somehow with a file or sandpaper or a handheld stone or diamond file, something that's that shape, and we're just going to have to see as we get around to actually finishing these. But time to quit screwing around with the V-gouge. The curved gouges are much easier. I made sure to forge this, so I had 1.5 inch inside diameter, and that makes it much easier to work on. I'm going to cool it in water frequently so I can hold on to it. As long as you don't bring the steel up to a red heat, you're not going to hurt it by quenching it at this point. You're going to harden and temper later anyways. Now the slack belt setting on this is great for doing the outside curves. Of course, we looked at the flat platen when we were doing the V-gouge initially. So that's 3 different functions on this tool already. And the steel grinder does have other wheels available. I have a 5-inch contact wheel if you just need more conventional grinding. I can use that, and I'm sure there are other attachments you can put on this, as well as a tool rest. I don't think I show the tool rest in here. But here is the 3-inch contact wheel on the other end of that platen attachment. So it just spins around on a central hub, and you can set it up for whichever tool you want to use. Of course, this wider gouge then was forged to fit the 3-inch contact wheel. In the long run, there will be several hours of grinding and filing to get these to look the way I want them to before I can go on to the heat treating process. But there is another option for the slack belt, and that's just going between the tracking wheel and the contact wheel you're working with, and you've got a slack belt here, so you don't have to reposition everything if you don't want to. Well, I think you're probably getting the idea of what I'm doing to grind these gouges. I'm going to continue through various grits. This is a 60 grit belt. It might be easier to start with a 36 grit belt, but I didn't buy any of those for this grinder. So maybe 36, 60, 120, 220. At that point, I'm going to go ahead and harden and temper these, and I'll come back to the 220 grit belt again, clean them up after that. But since I still probably have a couple hours left in grinding these to get them to the point that I want them, I'm going to go ahead and call this a video here as part 1. We'll pick this up later as part 2, do the hardening, the tempering, clean them up, put handles on them, and see if I can actually carve anything with them. Doing a small batch like this can be a lot of fun, but it's fairly time consuming, and it really reminds me of why I quit thinking maybe I would do this as a main goal in my blacksmith shop. At one point I thought I wanted to be a tool maker and make gouges and chisels and axes and adzes and all that stuff. But tools like this can be really fiddly until you get really good at it, and you probably have to make hundreds of them to get to that point. And quite frankly, I got other things I want to do, so I'm no longer trying to make these as a business thing, just making a little set for myself. Anyways, I hope that makes sense. Thanks again, Blacksmith Supply, for sending this grinder out last year, and thank you for sponsoring today's video. I want to thank everybody that's watching the video, and a special shout out to my channel members and my Patreon members. Channel members receive early access to the videos. Patreon patrons not only receive early access, but they also receive the videos ad-free. But again, for everybody, thanks for watching. I hope you have time in your day to get out to your shop, make something, but stay safe, wear your safety glasses. We'll see you for the next video.